Ms. Preble, we finished with with the floor?
Yes, thanks.
I'm sorry, but my box is locked up again. I'm just going to ask, is anyone else like to speak? Any council member? I'm going to move on to city attorney comments. Mr. Miller.
I don't have any items, Mayor. Thank you.
Land use attorney, Mr. Shirley.
I don't have any items either, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Renewal of joint use agreement, Destiny Elementary School athletic fields. We need to vote to approve that. Do you need to read Mr. Miller, anything on that, or shall we go to the explanation?
You can go to the manager.
Okay, Mr. Casella.
Yeah, what this is a joint use agreement with for us, the city, to use the elementary school athletic fields. This has been to the Okaloosa County School Board. They've approved it. It's back for you. We've reviewed it. It's in form that's acceptable to us. They made some changes relating to some of the indemnifications and so forth. So we'd ask for your consideration of this. And this is a 20-year agreement would begin yesterday and continue for to the 30th day of April, I guess 2036. The one provision in here that we tweaked is there had been concerns under the original where the individual using the improvements to jog trail around the field, and then this requires that to be scheduled through the principal of the school so that when the school's in session, that the principal knows who's on campus. So that was agreeable to us from a security standpoint. So we'd ask for your consideration and approval of this agreement.
Can I have a motion to approve the agreement?
I will make the recommended motion, Mayor. I move to approve the joint use agreement between the School Board of Okaloosa County, Florida, and the City of Destin, Florida, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement on behalf of the city.
I have a motion. I have a second. Discussion. Mr. Dixon first. Or is that for your motion? Any further discussion? Any discussion? There being none, I call for the, hang on a minute, vote. Yes to approve. Motion is unanimously approved. Approval of trip grant application for Crosstown Connector, Beach Drive to Benning Drive. City manager search and recruitment process. I'm sorry, that is very important. Bring us up to date.
I defer to Karen as relates to this. She's done the legwork pursuant to your motion at the last meeting. She's worked with the senior advisors to the Florida City County Managers Association, and I think she has some schedules and some candidates for you to consider for the interim city manager.
Good evening. I just wanted to see if you wanted to kind of take this in bites and talk about interim city manager first versus recruitment. Is that appropriate?
Yes, let's talk interim first.
First part of this is the interim city manager recruitment. I've provided you some names, 5 candidates that I have worked with the Florida City County Managers Association. All of these individuals have shown interest. They've provided resumes. I've also done background checks on these individuals. So most of all of them are, I just took some dates out of the hat if you guys would like to do interviews. They're all available the 4th, 5th, or the 9th. I'm assuming that would kind of need to schedule a workshop of some sorts. We can do a Skype. Most of these individuals are from South Florida. We do have one individual who does live in the Panhandle. He'd be happy to come in person for interviews. So if this is appropriate and you guys would like to move to that section of that, we could try and schedule some interviews. And depending on which dates might be appropriate, we can work with city clerk's office to schedule that with you or whatever direction you'd like to give.
Has compensation been discussed with all these candidates? Are they within our budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what we would have to do, after we do interviews, then we would have to talk about contract. So if you'd like, as a council, to possibly give the mayor the authority to work on the contract for the next part of that. I've also tried to secure some housing for this individual, especially with our season coming up. So we do have a couple of options for that. Of course, that would be outlined in the contract itself. One of the places, which is the Palms, which is right across the street, they would need me to contact them tomorrow. They have a minimum of a 6-month lease. Of course, it's all inclusive, water, utilities, whatnot. It's a full two-bedroom facility, very comfortable. It'd be around $1,800 a month. The one, I guess, good part with the minimum of a 6-month lease, if we have an interim city manager, and then we possibly might need this for an interim stay for the council, the new city manager, when we get to that point. So, and then we have another alternative for the extended stay in the Destin, Santa Rosa Beach area. It's around $5,000 for about 2.5 months. They will do a month-by-month lease. And they will also give a 15% discount off of whatever that.
I think probably we don't need all the details on
Okay.
each of those. We'll work that out once we decide when the person can start and how long the process will be to find a full-time replacement. What were those dates again that you recommended for interviews?
I just, because I knew we wanted to kind of move this along pretty quickly, I had just reached out to all of them to ask if they were available the 4th, the 5th, or the 9th of May, learning that some of the individuals will be out of town, so sounds like maybe next week is more appropriate, so we can try and work the week of the 9th, or something that might be more appropriate for interviews.
How long do you think this will take? It'd be 5 individuals by Skype, maybe an hour each, or?
Yeah, an hour would be probably respective enough to take care of each interview individually.
What is the pleasure of council? Discussion?
I personally think an hour may be a little much on each candidate. You know, it's hard to ask questions about somebody you really don't know for a solid hour. I've done a little bit of interview stuff. I think we could set them up maybe at the most 45 minutes apart. And I would like to do all of them by Skype if we can. And the reason I say that, I think we're going to set it up kind of like that, then somebody coming and doing a personal interview might be a little bit of a conflict there in the way that we do it. So I'd kind of like to make sure that we set them all up on Skype, and I'd like to shoot for the 9th, the date that you've kind of put forward here, and at least maybe we can choose somebody that we might feel comfortable with for the interim basis, and you know, through that, and I did look at the resumes here of some of these people, and I'm a little bit worried about a couple of them as to whether or not they'd be willing to accept what we could pay. And I know we're gonna have to come up with what we could pay for that interim position, but I'm very much interested in getting this process going so we can, you know, fulfill that position and then to be working on the permanent city manager position. One of the things I think that we need to discuss and try to figure out as to whether or not the people that we're looking at on an interim basis, are we going to allow those people to try to get the full-time job? So that's one of the things that I think we need to discuss and we need to come to terms with.
Yes, sir, that was going to be something I was going to bring forward. And if I may, I was thinking also maybe an hour for interviews, so if there was some time, if it only took 45 minutes, you would have a little bit of time to kind of debrief before the next interview started?
It's fine. I just know
Okay.
That's a long day, or 5 hours at least, and so I'm willing to put the time in, but, you know, I didn't know if everybody was able to. I don't know if we need to start at 6 o'clock in the evening. I think we need to do something a little earlier, and I don't know if, go ahead, I'm sorry.
you have the one individual that is not available after 1 o'clock. I'm assuming that's Eastern time, so.
Yes, sir. Yes, most of these individuals are on Eastern time. So, Mr. Russ Blackburn, the first individual on that list, is only available till 1 p.m. on the 9th. So, we would have to take that into consideration.
Does council want to consider having this start at, say, noon?
Well,
rather than
that'd be
evening?
1 o'clock their time, yeah.
Or 11 o'clock,
Yeah.
excuse me.
All right, yeah, this is kind of short notice for the people that are working a full-time job. I'm questioning whether or not they'd be able to attend. I think it's very important that they're here.
The May 9th is fine for me, but May 5th, 4th and 5th, or I could make the 4th happen, but the 5th's definitely out of the question. But
Anyone cannot make the night? You make the night?
Anytime, I'm fine.
I'm on vacation that week, I can definitely make the ninth.
Okay. Anyone cannot make the 9th? Mr. Braden, good. Let's set it up for the 9th at 11.
All right, and one other question, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to take up the time here, Mayor. Is that okay?
Yes, go ahead.
I guess we're going to have some questions we're going to ask every candidate that's out there. Are we going to develop our own questions? Are you going to develop some questions for us? Are we going to get specific on their resumes? How are we going to proceed with this? And we'll probably need to somehow make sure we know how we're going to do this thing, a couple of days ahead of time. So, I think we need to, when we do this, I think we need to ask the same questions, unless it's relevant to their resume, to every candidate, the generic questions.
Yes, sir.
So-
I have provided the position description for the city manager along with this, so that would probably be a good kind of way to kind of start, but I'll be happy to provide a standard list of questions. Of course, I'm sure each of you have, certain areas that you would like to make sure that this individual is able to, appropriately decide things on or whatnot. So, I'll make sure that also that there's those questions that can't be asked, HR-wise, but I'll be happy to provide those.
Yes, if you could come up with some standard questions for each one that you'd normally think you'd ask on any interview.
Yes, sir.
And
Then
then
we can eliminate those, but we probably ought to have at least 15 minutes at a time or more for us to ask questions. So we probably want to keep it tight and let members. I think in interviews too, though, a lot of times that question that you really decide you want to answer will come up during the interview after you hear some of the things they say. So I don't know that we can really have all of them.
Yeah,
in
and you're going to
advance.
ask individual ones specific questions about their resume. So, as long as we have some generic questions as a foundation.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I
Yes.
apologize. I cannot do it on the 9th. We're talking about doing all these starting at 11 o'clock on the 9th and finishing up at 4 o'clock, something like that. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
I can't swing that one.
Could you start earlier? Is the 9th out completely, or could you start earlier in the day? They cannot do it after a certain time. They could start earlier in the morning, correct?
Yeah, just the one individual.
What
Mr.
what
Blackburn.
time do you think we could start and be finished?
We could be finished,
Start and finish both.
start and finish. If we start at 8 o'clock our time, it's 9 o'clock there, so I believe that would probably be, good enough for a start time for us, 8 o'clock Central Time.
8 to 1. Would that
Okay, that's
fit?
fine. I'll be leaving town about 2 o'clock, so that'll be good.
Any other members that would have a problem with that? Okay, 8 to 1. You're going to start with questions, and council members will come up with their own. I think the housing can be addressed once we decide how quickly we're going to move on this. Any other questions? I'm sorry. One more I want to throw out, and then we'll go to Mr. Amsel. We have 5. These range from an individual that's never been a city manager to one that's highly experienced, I guess, as a city manager, would be the fastest way to describe it. I don't know that we you might want to eliminate one or two and cut the time down. If you know up front you're going to want somebody that's had city manager experience. I don't know that you want to eliminate someone just because they never have.
Mayor, I want to ask you a question about that.
Okay.
please, and I'm sorry.
Okay, we'll go to Mr., I'll let you all think about that
Well,
in
I
a
just
second.
want to ask a question about
Okay.
that specific thing, because if they got county manager experience, is that, it is different than city manager experience.
It is different, yes.
So you want to consider that?
Personally, I'm going to lean more toward a very experienced city manager.
Okay, but,
But-
county
but that would-
manager is basically the same thing, it just runs a county.
Right.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't eliminate a county manager necessarily just because
Okay,
he was not a city manager. There's a fairly significant jump of having that top position. And so I would question bringing someone in that has never really sat in that chair before at any level. But Ms. Ramsell, you want to?
Karen, this is amazing. I mean, you've gone to all lengths. I never would have thought of housing, so great job. My concern is with sunshine law. Does this have to be publicly noticed since we're all going to be together? And is there time to do that?
By the time, for the May 9th, Gray and I were discussing that this morning, so if we would have actually gone with the 4th or 5th, it would have been probably too tight, but with the 9th, I think we're good to go.
Okay, good deal. And then I had a firm reach out to me after I reached out to them. They were recommended. And this might be someone, I don't know if you've worked with them or talked to them. It's called Management Partners. I had Ray pass out a sheet. The guy I spoke with was Jerry Newfarmer. And I don't know if that's someone you might want to reach out to and see for a long term, or whatever we decide and however we move forward. I was real impressed with this firm, and the fact that one of their goals is to make government better. I think that's certainly something that is important. So
Yeah,
I was really
received the
impressed
letter.
with them.
Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Braden, did you have?
Yes, thanks. I had a crazy question, but the list of these people, I guess they're retired city managers?
Some of them, some or most of them are in transition. Some of them are actually looking for another position. So a couple of them have shown interest to actually apply for the full-time city manager position. And some of them are just kind of in transition, whether they potentially might retire or they might actually, like I said, be looking for another position. So.
I got you. I just noticed a lot of them, their employment went to 2015, some of them December 2015. I was just curious if they retired, got fired.
I did look a lot of that, and in all of these cases, to me, it looked like it was a fair and appropriate either retirement or separation from service. So I wanted to make sure and that's why it took a little while to provide the names to you, because I wanted to make sure to vet these individuals and do an extensive search. So.
Okay, thank you. That's all, Mayor.
How many of them are credentialed?
I'm not exactly sure. I didn't look at those specifically, but most of them are either with the ICMA or FCCMA. They're all joined that organization and have been a part of that for some time.
So, well, you can be a member, though, without being credentialed, right?
Yes.
Okay. I think I'd like to know that, and I don't know if I saw it on a couple of them, but not others, and I don't know if that just means they're not credentialed or they just didn't list it. I don't know if that's something maybe you could find out. I'd appreciate it.
Yes.
Any further discussion? I'm not to ask council's pleasure on how we might, if there's any you would like to eliminate at this point, or is there a procedure between now and then you would like to adopt to do so, or just accept the 5 and go with those?
Do the
Okay.
5.
I'm assuming we're going with the 5. Now let's talk about recruitment.
So with the second part of this agenda item, it talks about recruitment. There's a couple of different ways that we can go about it as you feel appropriate. We can either do internal recruitment. There's going to be some costs associated with that, mostly with advertising. However, that would take up pretty much all of my time, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to buy a cot and kind of live in my office. But just to give you respectfully an idea of what's going on with the HR side of the house, I've got currently 4 internal vacancies. We're just going into budget season. I'm also in the middle of a wage and classification study. So with all of that, and then dedicating a lot, if not all, most of my time to city manager recruitment, if we do it in-house, that would be a big burden. But we can also represent and do a search committee. You can appoint a search committee to help out with those. Of course, that would probably involve some of my time, not as much as internally, but it also would probably put a lot of time on you guys as well to assist with that search committee. The cost would probably be the same as internal recruitment for pretty much advertising. Of course, we have also the search consultant firms. We've used these for the past 2 previous, 2011 and 2003. The search consultants, we went out for RFP. The last one, there was about 6 different firms that responded. And so I think with the RFP, it kept some of the costs down. But we were also able to tell them exactly what we wanted and put that criteria in that RFP. Just to give you an idea, back in 2003, it took about 82 days from recruitment to hire, and that was with an external recruitment firm. The other thing too, the advantages of going with a recruiter is they have those contacts already. They've probably got a pool of city managers that they know are just like these 5 candidates that I had to take a few weeks to actually find. They also, it seems that candidates at this level, this professional level, have a better understanding and comfort with a recruitment firm for the confidentiality of their application and resume going forward, because they have another set of counsel and mayor also that's looking at that. So the other thing that I feel that I might be approached with if it's done internally as well is I believe that there's a limited applicant pool for the city managers. I don't feel that the younger generation of folks, and there's that larger group of folks coming into the city manager field. A lot of, respectfully, gentlemen are retiring and leaving the field, so I have a feeling that might be an issue as well. But those are just my concerns. Of course, we could also use the senior advisors, as I have been currently, to help me out with recruitment. If I go with the senior advisors as such, they would be able to pretty much look at the applications and the resumes. They could narrow it down depending on what you guys see fit and with the job description. They could also assist you guys with interview assistance. What would still be on my realm would be the advertising, background checks. I would have to collect all those applications, filter those out, make sure that everyone receives those. I would still have to schedule all those meetings, schedule all the interviews, work with you. So, there's those kind of options there. I know it was real short and sweet, but if I can provide any other guidance.
All right, Mr. Dixon?
Yes, I think this is a little bit too much of an important position to not have a professional firm out trying to do everything they can to bring the most qualified candidate in. And I hate spending this kind of money, but I would recommend, and I'm going to go ahead and make the motion that we move to direct the city manager to provide council with an RFP for professional search firm services for a city manager's position.
We have a motion, we have a second. Discussion?
I'm sorry, I didn't push my button, but as having participated in one of these before along with Mr. Foreman, I think this is the best course of action. It takes a lot of these firms, or headhunters as they're called, take a lot more time, and they'll weed out the ones that they know won't be a good fit for us, and then they'll give us the usually about 5 recommendations that are good fits.
Mr. Foreman?
Yeah, Karen, you think Chuck Garcia might be available to help you out on the logistics end of this?
Over the last 11 months, I have wanted to call him many times, but I've resisted. But I do miss him very, very dearly for just his great mentorship. But I would be able to call him if he'd wish, but I don't know.
Yeah, well, you're pretty well loaded up. You know, even with an RFP, you're going to be involved in a lot. So someone like Chuck might be able to help us out.
Yeah, that'd be good. I did, Greg did approve me a part-time HR coordinator about a month ago. So I've been trying to train this individual as well. So it's kind of hard. She's a help, but you know, it's a lot of work. But I'd be happy to take any suggestions.
Mr. Braden?
Thank you, Mayor. My thoughts were kind of on the same line as Mr. Foreman. Didn't know if there was something that this council could do to help ease your load, help you out.
Let's, can we go ahead and have the vote before we
Sure.
go the other direction? Any further discussion before we call for the vote? Go ahead and vote, please. We have a unanimous yes vote to send out an RFP. Okay, Mr. Braden, go ahead.
Could I interject? We're going to be edging into a charter exposure here with directing employees. May I ask if there's adequate funding in the budget for the staff to, or for the city manager to be able to bring in additional consulting services?
Let me do this. Let me work with Karen to see what resources she needs, and if she needs additional resources, we'll get her those resources.
Well, that sure avoids the issue that I was concerned about.
Thank you. I appreciate your support.
Do we need to
What
have
haven't we decided yet?
I think that's all that I have for this. I appreciate, I will get back to you guys as appropriate that you've asked of me for the interim city manager stuff, so.
I think council would appreciate a summary of exactly where we're at and an update, and of course, all of these items on the calendar. Good.
I was just going to ask, obviously, we'll put the discussion for the selection of a firm off till the next meeting or whenever Karen sees fit or the city manager sees fit
Right,
to
when
have
we
Karen.
put out the RFP, I'm assuming what we'll do is when you get all of those in, hopefully it'll be within 2 weeks. And we'll
Yeah, I think
pick a firm at the next one.
I think the earliest you'll see the results of that would be June 6th. Because you'll want to go out for a couple of weeks, get them, evaluate them. Do what?
No, that's right.
Yeah, you're going to meet again, if you're going to do your interviews on the 9th, you meet again on the 16th. But I think if we can get you the RFP back to you on June 6th for the selection of the consultant for the executive recruiter, that would work.
That would probably give me enough time between the interim, you know, all that stuff, and then, be able to still work on the RFP in that time, and then be able to bring it to you then. That would probably be enough time for me to be able to get that to you.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if you make a selection next Monday on the 9th for the interim, You ratify that contract on the 16th of June, 16th of May, then, you know, that candidate could be here relatively quickly and transition out, you know, pretty quickly, so.
Mayor, if I may,
Yes.
if May the 9th is a workshop, you cannot make a selection, because you can't vote
I
on the
think you
workshop.
need to make that a special meeting.
We can make that a special meeting. I can advertise it for a special meeting rather than a workshop. Is that
I think
okay?
that's what your intent is, to make a selection on the 9th, right?
Then it would have to be a
Yes.
special meeting.
Yeah.
So, yes, we'll
So we
change
need
that
to
to a
amend the
special meeting
motion.
then.
Do we need to amend the motion then to reflect special meeting as opposed to workshop?
I don't think there was a
Anything said
motion. I
about a
think the
workshop?
mayor announced it.
The mayor can't call a special meeting, right? Council does that, mayor calls workshops?
I can call a special meeting as well, can I?
Yes, you may.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am. I'm
excellent.
calling a special meeting for the 9th, rather than, and canceling the workshop. Further discussion? Enough discussion, okay.
Item
Sir.
18.
Okay, 18, approval of trip grant application for Crosstown Connector, Beach Drive to Benning Drive. You don't need to read that, Mr. Miller, do you?
No, sir.
Okay, so discussion? No,
Yeah, this is a, at your last meeting, you heard a presentation from Atkins as relates to as they're wrapping up and completing the PD&E study. We are in the process. Last Friday, we submitted a trip grant application to be timely. This is the authorization for the funding, so we'd ask for your approval. I don't, the amount, a little over $1 million. You want- assuming that we're able to get a trip grant. So we'd ask for your authorization for the mayor basically to sign that trip grant application in that amount, and that would provide the city's match and get us in the appropriate state and federal line for the trip grant.
can I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Have a motion, and Mr. Dixon, second.
I move that the
Discussion? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I move that the council authorize the mayor to sign the trip grant application for the Crosstown Connector Beach Drive to Benning Drive that would commit the city to $1,162,500 in matching funds should the grant application be approved for the full amount requested.
Second.
We have a motion, second, discussion. I see no discussion. We'll call for the vote. Unanimous, yes.
Item 19 is the solid waste franchise. This is for the request for proposals. In 2015, the city council authorized us to go to market basically with an RFP for solid waste services for the city. Mr. Warren has taken the lead on my staff to develop this RFP. It would go out for the next 30 days. We would evaluate it in a two-step process. One, that they were being responsive, and two, then we would get into the actual cost and evaluation for the different levels of service that they would be proposing. That would be done in the July timeframe. And then if there was a change in providers, that would give the provider, the new provider, about 60 to 75 days, to accommodate, getting the carts out there and getting the equipment and so forth to be able to service those routes. So you have the RFP before you. We can have whatever level of discussion you want to. It is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Webb, it is basically the same level of service that we have now. The only difference is that currently, under the current franchise ordinance, we assist Waste Management in the collection of their receivables. This would remove the city from that responsibility, let the provider of the services collect their receivables. If they didn't collect it, if they didn't, and they discontinued service by pulling the cart, they would notify the city that the cart had been pulled, and we would then take them through the code enforcement process, including the special magistrate. So we wouldn't be worried about, how much receivables and all that. It would basically, from our standpoint, having the property owner responsible for a unit being habitated with the appropriate level of service, garbage service. The other tweak was that there was a requirement we've getting complaints from folks on the recyclables to provide a cart, small cart with a lid so that if it doesn't blow out and so forth. So that's is being laid out, but everything else, the same level of service that we are currently using.
May I have a motion?
I have a little bit of discussion on this. I
thought we'd
apologize.
Motion second and have discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion, Mayor. I move to approve the RFP 16-808CM and authorize the city manager to seek competitive proposals for the city's solid waste franchise.
Second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Mr. Dixon, you're first.
Thank you, Mayor. I did sit down with some of the people from Waste Management, and I had made a couple of recommendations that I didn't see when I read through this, what the qualifications or the whatever we're going to send out here, the proposals we're going to send out. One of the things I'd kind of like to see is where we have an elderly resident that lives by themselves, to where they could have a once a week pickup versus 2 days a week. And I don't know if this is when to get into that or whatever it may be. And the second thing is that I know we have an ordinance in place that basically says everybody has to have garbage pickup, and I think that's a good thing. I do think that is a necessary thing. But I think we're still going to use a lot of staff time trying to chase down the people that are not paying the garbage bills. The only difference is going to be that because we have that on the books, is that the waste management people are going to be dunning them too, but we're still going to be pulling people in front of the code enforcement or to the special magistrate, and we're still going to be spending a lot of staff time with this, and I just don't know that we're going down the right road with that. I'm not saying that we should abolish our garbage ordinance and the fact that you have to have garbage service, but I don't really know what the answer is, that we're still going to be using a lot of staff time to try to determine who's not paying and try to figure out who comes before a special magistrate and who doesn't, and checking to see whether or not, just because somebody canceled service, whether or not they still live there and things like that. So I think that we're still kind of going to use a lot of staff time on this. The only staff time I guess we will not be using is the actual trying to collect the money or whatever it may be. So I really don't see where we're saving that much staff time on this, but maybe so. But I still would like to see us maybe come up with a way that where we have, like I said, a single person, elderly, living in a home or an apartment or whatever it may be, that really doesn't generate that much garbage, to be able to get a little bit of a discount in the fact that they don't need it but once a week pickup. So I don't know whether we come in with that and when that would come into play or what, but I did mention this when I talked to some of the people from Waste Management.
Mr. Casella, would you have a suggestion on that?
Well, the code enforcement process will be a lot more straightforward. If the waste provider notifies us that the cart has been pulled for non-payment, that's a lot easier for us to deal with, much more straightforward to deal with than the receivables where you get into it and you have them, tracking how much is owed. Then the special magistrate, sometimes the amounts get up, $100, $150, some kind of $400 or $500, and it gets to be pretty onerous. But if the waste provider is pulling the cart after basically 1 or 2 quarters, that's going to make it a lot easier for us to schedule the property owner, not necessarily the tenant, but the property owner in front, and deal with it. The once-a-week service, that's a whole different animal because you don't really know, if you did it citywide, that's a lot straightforward, but then you're gonna have folks that, really don't want once a week, that wants to twice a week. So,
I wasn't suggesting we change to once a week for everybody.
no, I understand, but is it, since you won't know how many people would take advantage of it, you know, saying, that's the challenge is, who takes advantage of it, how many, so when they price it, and then the cans out there, the drivers are conditioned to service the can. So if it's out there, they're gonna pick it up. So I'm not saying it's not doable, it's just a little bit more of a challenge.
If it got a red lid on it, you pick it up on Friday. Yellow lid, you pick it up on Tuesday. It's easy.
Great.
Go ahead.
If I may, under our current contract, we actually do have a senior discount. It is a 20% reduction. There are certain qualifications such as you have to be 65, and it is a once per week service. And it is a cheaper service that we do offer for folks who do register for that. 439 seniors have registered for this in the city limits. It's almost 10%, so it's been a good program for us.
So that is in place at present?
It is presently in place, and
And
it's
a
also...
once a week pickup?
Yes, and is also contemplated in this RFP.
Good, shouldn't ask the question, sorry.
Ms. Ramsell?
I wasn't here when the trash collection wasn't part of the city. Was it really that problematic to not have the city have anything to do with it and be like a Destin Water Users or a Gulf Power and have it completely out of our hands?
Well, the challenge you have, what you're regulating both on price, you should get a better price. The other thing that you're avoiding is having every homeowner contract out with a separate provider. So like right now, you've got a truck going through there on Tuesdays and Fridays. If you let anybody service, you could have a garbage truck in there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
No, meaning that instead of the city handling everything, have Waste Management handle everything, just like with our water bill or with our power bill.
Well, the only thing that we do right now is do the, if the property owner doesn't maintain service. So they bill, they do all that now. We don't do any of that.
Right, so I guess what I'm saying is, how bad a problem is it if you don't pay your water bill, your water's shut off? You don't pay your power bill, your power's shut off. If you don't pay your waste management bill, well, they're not gonna get your garbage. Does it really pile up that bad? I mean, is the history showing that it gets that out of control?
What you'll end up with is basically garbage. People will live in there, garbage will pile up, or they'll figure out another way to dispose of it, and you'll have illegal dumping in that standpoint.
Does that outweigh the benefits of us getting out of the collection business and going to the magistrate and everything?
I mean, there's pros and cons to it, but I think the overall benefit is that you'll have a cleaner city by, regulating it.
Now, my thinking was, would code enforcement be better utilized if they were ticketing those that had trash piling up because their service was eliminated, or would they spend more time on, the other, what's currently going on? That's what I'm trying, I don't know.
If it ends up being a nuisance, a public health issue, if there's garbage, and we at times get involved when people live in the units when the water and or sewer, the water is cut off, and then we have to get involved and say you can't live in the unit from a public health standpoint, even though the water is discontinued. Unfortunately, people will continue at times to live in the unit.
Okay, yeah, I was just sort of thinking aloud in terms of, because I know it's been so problematic for the city and dealing with the collection issues and the overtasking of code enforcement and such. Wouldn't it be great if we just didn't have to have anything to do with it whatsoever?
It will be easier without the receivable portion.
Yes, much easier.
Mr. Marler?
Thank you. To address Mr. Dixon first, Ms. Ramswell just brought up a point, which is one of the reasons that we did a mandatory garbage. If we left it up to a lot of the public, they wouldn't be paying for any garbage, and if there's a blank lot next door, that's where their garbage is going to go until the next guy clears that lot to build a house. We also had illegal dumping of them going up to the various restaurants and using their big dumpsters instead of using their own, instead of using the garbage can. So I agree in some points with Mr. Dixon on mandatory pickup. We might be able to work out something, to that, but I was on council at the time we made that ordinance and have participated in several of these negotiations on RFPs. So it's better to go this way. And, I've also talked with Waste Management and gave them some ideas, and along like Mr. Dixon did. So I'm thinking that we just wait it out. You'll find out that we'll get more bang for the buck. But being part of in a city when you don't actually control a lot, which is what we don't. All we really have benefits-wise is we control parks and recreation. The water users, again, is a co-op of all of us. And if you'll notice that the city of Fort Walton Beach for many years had their own garbage service, and they now contract with Waste Management for that, as well as the county and several other entities. You go with the flow of the biggest carrier you got, and you can work out and negotiate deals. I know part of our deal with the commercial end of the deal is it's based upon fuel cost for how much the commercials pay for their picking up their dumpsters, where we as citizens every 3 months we pay I think it's $64 every 3 months, and we get pretty good service. We get our garbage picked up, and I'm also working with I was working with Waste Management on that issue when I met with them about getting the garbage cans replaced. A lot of people don't realize they can get their cans replaced when they're cracked by just making a phone call. So hopefully they'll come back with something along the lines of what I was talking about. But mandatory garbage, if we don't have something in place, let's just go backwards a few years and actually now, why we hired another code enforcement officer we approved another code enforcement officer for Crystal Beach area and the short-term rentals. That's where the utilization of mandatory garbage pickup is at. That's one of the reasons. Otherwise, they'll haul that garbage anywhere they can, drop it off, and let the next person that has to clean up the mess that somebody else left behind. Thank you.
Mayor, do we have a motion yet? I'm sorry.
Yes, we have a motion and a second. Destin? Mr. Destin?
This is sort of incidental. In the magistrate process, assuming that a person doesn't pay their garbage bill, we get notified, we send them over to the magistrate finds that they violated, assesses a fine. Does the fine, if it gets unpaid, does it attach as a lien to the real property? Is that how? Okay, that was my question.
Call the question. I'm with you. Question is called. We have a unanimous yes vote.
The last item on that issue is, under our RFPs, we do have contact prohibitions. So once we release this RFP, that if you're getting contacted by any of these prospective proposers, just instruct them to contact Mr. Warren so we can have one point of contact on that. So that will help. So, and they've been notified they shouldn't do that, but this will be a very competitive process here. So,
Mr. Casella, you're still up.
all right, we
Number
have
20.
the second quarter financials, an investment report. We provided you that. Our good friends from Raymond James have sat here for almost 4 hours, and they're ready for some exciting returns. But
I am so sorry, you guys. We should move you up next time. You deserve to be moved up next time.
So if y'all have any questions, they'll be glad to. I know that the new council members may be unfamiliar with the role of Raymond James, but we have basically invested the $10 million of reserves the city has with Raymond James, who has with Eagle, and they manage those funds for us. So that's why they're here, but they can answer any questions relating to our investments of that. And then Brad can answer any questions relating to our second quarter financials.
Good job, guys.
People who are seen and not heard.
All right, last thing, and then it's scrolling up, we've got a reminder on the Founder's Day is at 11:30, Saturday at the Community Center. We've got our visioning session in about 10 hours at the library. And then last but not least is on the Heritage Run. Groundbreaking is May the 12th at 11 o'clock out there on the site. I think Mr. Doug is going to have the address.
It's 761 Vintage Circle. You all should have something, email and inbox, but Matt and Don Gates will be there, so just let me know if you can make it. Thanks.
And that's all I have.
Anyone have anything for the good of the cause? Meeting's adjourned. Oh, public comments, I'm sorry. I did, they got me twice.
Steve Menschel. Good. Hopefully we'll be finished very soon. Mr. Marlar's talking points were incorrect on several points, and I want to clarify a few of them. It was mentioned about a citizen who was running for office was involved with the street sign project. I am that citizen who Mr. Marlar was referring to. For the record, in 2014, I appeared before the City Council and presented a spreadsheet which listed the issues with the missing signs. I also coordinated with the county and obtained the signs at no cost to the City of Destin. Sadly, due to some incorrect emails being sent by the city to the county, the project took much longer to complete than it should have. At the time the project started in 2014, I was not a candidate, repeat, not a candidate, running for office. In reference to the cell phone tower issue, the towers were removed and reinstalled, and one of those towers was placed in an area that had no easement, and the association has recently had that antenna moved as well. And lastly, in reference to the Gulf Power, again, I am the citizen you spoke about, and that was a project I also started by me years ago before I ran for office. For your information, I am still working on the Gulf Power project as a citizen, and more information will be forthcoming as soon as I complete an analysis of new material and information that I have just received. Thank you.
You're next. Push the button so the light's on. No, on the center box.
You can tell I haven't been up here for a while. Got a whole new system. Okay, well, Mr. Mayor, I kind of want to address a similar issue.
Could you state your name and address?
Oh, I'm sorry. Shar Rohr, 4564 Woodwind Drive, Destin, Florida. Okay, I'm here for similar comments about the same situation, although I didn't know that the other speaker was going to be getting up here. I've been upset this whole meeting because I feel like Councilman Marlar made unfair and I feel like misleading statements regarding the meeting at April 18th about the retirement of City Manager Casella. And basically, I missed that meeting, but I watched it on video, the city website, and I think if anybody's still listening after 4 hours out there, I would like to recommend that any citizen go to that meeting and watch it. Because they will see that Councilman Ramswell, she mentioned many, many more things than the minor things that Councilman Marlar talked about. So I think it's very unfair because he gave the impression that she's not really relevant to the situation on things she talked about. So I guess, what I would like to say is, one thing I would like you to all know, and I don't know if this matters, but when you do these council meetings, it was very confusing to me when I watched it because you actually record the 5-minute break. And there's a big spot of nothingness blank on the screen for a while before you even know that that's a continuation of the council meeting. And then a message comes up that says that there's a 5-minute break, and then you have to sit there for 5 minutes and wait till the break's over because it continues to record. So it was very hard for me to find that portion of the meeting that discussed the retirement of the city manager. But when I did finally get to see it, I saw everything that Councilman Ranswell said, and I just want to recommend to the public to go. If they want to see the truth of what happened and what was said, they need to actually go see the video themselves. And that's all I have to say about it.
Thank you.
All right.
My name is Kevin Schmidt, 1111 Quell Circle in Destin. I just wanted to bring up, I guess, a comment about the hiring of the city manager. It seems like that's a very hot topic and a very important position for this city based upon the council, city manager, way we have it set up. I'm not sure how it all works, but it seems like the HR person has these 5 interim people that she recommended, but I'm not sure if there was any guidance to her on who to hire for this interim position. And then it also stated that the last person we hired, it took 80-something days from recruitment to hiring. So maybe before we go into a 6-month lease terms with hotels and we hire an interim manager on May 9th after recommendations of these people from the HR person under, I'm not sure whose orders, but how that works. But I would just urge you on May 9th to carefully consider also these people as possibly being the future city manager before we waste money on leases and travel expenses and whatever else they might encounter with the interim manager, and then possibly 2 months later hiring a full-time city manager. So, thank you.
Thank you. Just a point of information, the 5 people recommended come from a professional organization, and all of these people have had similar positions before and now travel around the state and fill in, and they're all professionals.
She didn't find them herself?
No, they were provided with Range Rider. Well, that was the old name. They've changed their name, but it used to be called Range Rider, but these are all professional, normally city managers or county managers that are willing to do this on a part-time basis. Yeah, they're the Florida League of Cities. Anyone else? Again, I apologize. This second meeting in a row, I've tried to skip the public at the end. I'm going to find a way to speed these meetings up, I hope, one of these days. Maybe at one of the workshops, council might be willing to look at the rules and give the mayor a little more latitude to use a gavel. I'm real reluctant to do that, but I'm good? Okay, we're leaving it the same. Thank you all for coming. Meeting's adjourned.